Uh, I called my podcast Rebirth with Rawan, because we're every day we're like born again, I guess. So I believe in reincarnation as well from human to human. So it's part of my culture. And I believe that every day is a new beginning for us to start and to explore life in so many aspects. So, Donald, I want to welcome you to my podcast with Rebirth with Rawan. This podcast is not about business. This podcast is about inspiration. It's about your journey that you had to go through in the past couple years. And it's about everything that you were able to overcome in these 2 years. So, can you introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us who is Donald and why you're on this podcast today.
So yes, my name is Donald. I'm blessed to be here in this amazing community that Rawan represents. She is such an amazing person. She's been there for us every step of the way. And so a couple of years ago, actually almost to the day, I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer that was deemed inoperable where we live. And we live in British Columbia in the Okanagan. And we were lucky enough, my uh, wife's daughter found this surgeon in Toronto who had experience with it, and he said, "Come on out, and we'll look at it if you're willing to make that trip." And we did, and he said yes. He was willing to kind of put a team together and operate, and he was. I mean, he's probably one of the top three surgeons in the world that
Mhm.
we have in Canada, and he teaches surgeons all over the world as well. So every Canadian should know that you don't need to travel out of the country and pay six figures to go see a different surgeon when we have the expertise here. And once again, we were kind of blessed to be able to see him. And he went in and he removed the mass. He resected half my trachea, and he kind of put me back together. And uh, for reference, it was kind of like the size of my fist here,
Mhm.
compressing my trachea and my esophagus. It was down to 30%. And um, I only, the only thing I knew was I had an annoying cough, and my wife was kept going, go see a doctor, go see a
Okay.
doctor, go see a doctor. And, we went through the process, and they thought it was acid reflux. They thought it was different things. And finally, they did a CT, and they saw this mass, and they went, oh, and then things moved pretty quick, and they sent us to a thoracic surgeon in Kelowna in the cancer center, and they thought, well, we can't do anything for this person aside from radiation to keep you comfortable. And
That's the beginning stages. And this is where I want a little bit to go back there. Uh, you know, because lots of my close people right now are going through types of cancers. It's not the same one that you had. But I want to go back to the early stages, like that moment where you knew you had it. Um, I know it's a lot of information, it's a lot of worry, it's a lot of thoughts that would come to someone's brain because now the priority for them is their health. How did you handle it at the beginning?
I think it was one of those ignorance is bliss situations where, I didn't really deem it to be life-threatening. Um, it was just it was just something I had.
Mhm.
It didn't really impair my life at the beginning. It was, as I say, it was just an annoying cough, and yet then, as you see this look on the doctors when they're saying, well, this thing is 7 by 6 by 5 centimeters in size. And you're like going, and even I was kind of going, well, okay. And then even when they said they were going to deal with it with radiation in Kelowna, I thought, oh, well, no operation then. At least they're just doing radiation. I don't have to go under anything major. And I always had the thought that it was curable.
Okay. So from the beginning, you had the mindset, the energy where you're gonna be okay.
Yes, never crossed my mind that it was going to be anything other than that. Um, the even when we went in for surgery, the surgeon said your risk of not making it is 10%. And I thought, oh well, that's acceptable. That's great at 90%. And then he goes, let me put it into perspective. A double lung transplant is 1.5. You're a 10. Open heart surgery is zero point 0.5. You're a 10. And I just still thought, oh, that's still pretty good. I mean, this guy's willing to do it. It didn't really sink in until after we were kind of wrapped up and on the way home. And we had a meeting with him, and he said, yeah, you were at the limit of what could be done
Mhm,
surgically. And you
mhm.
kind of went, oh, that's very different than 10%.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, but I think that whole thing was, I remember being in recovery and people, were kind of going, could you still walk up a flight of steps? And it's like, yeah, we were still out hiking and we were still living life until we came here. And so my mind never kind of went to that point of considering myself to be sick. And
Nice.
then I um would do there's lots of meditations where you can actually visualize whatever it is that's affecting you and visualize it getting smaller. So
Hmm.
I would go use a mantra of every day and in every way I'm getting better and better, or every day in every way it's getting smaller and smaller. And I would just repeat that through the
Okay.
course of my day and
How
just
did that help you reach a place where you're like, you have that strong mindset that you are cured, even though you still had it in you?
you know the mindset I think is whether or not you're willing to believe that you are dying or sick,
Mhm.
whether or not you are strong and just going through something.
Nice. I love that. So
So
you had to like visualize it this way, where you didn't give your brain an option to think about death.
yes, it never crossed my mind that I was going to die or
Oh.
was dying. And um, it was interesting because Carolyn said, okay, for the one thing I want you, my wife her name is Carolyn, and she would say, the one thing I want you to do is just go in and do a little bit of research. And that was probably the worst thing because I ended up on some Facebook groups and some of the people, their experiences were just horrendous. And it was just, I immediately got off of it. I'm just like, this is not helping me. And I was lucky enough to have a neighbor across the street who was actually just recovering from esophageal cancer. And so he came over and he talked a lot about his process and kind of what happened. And he kind of reminded me that, those people that you see when you go to treatment, you know, some of them are repeat customers, but they represent a very small percentage of the
Uh-huh.
people. You don't see the people that are cured and don't come back.
Absolutely.
You don't have that particular mindset.
And how important is it to safeguard yourself at this stage in your life? Because everyone knows that you have this disease. Everyone is trying to give you advices. Some people are feeling sorry for you. Some people are sharing horrible experiences. Some people are sharing acceptable experiences. Like, how did you protect yourself? How did you safeguard yourself in that period?
I think for the most part, I don't take an awful lot from external sources. So
Okay.
I am who I am. And if anything, people are quite often surprised when they see me saying, you know, I can't believe that you had this or you had this operation or whatever it is. People are just kind of surprised. And um, I think for anybody out there that's going through this, if there's wonderful organizations, and there's an organization called Wellspring, and they have local facilities in Alberta and in Ontario, and their strict um, mandate is to service the non-medical component of people going through cancer.
Okay. What's the name of the
So
organization? Sorry.
called Wellspring.
Wellspring. Okay.
And those that don't have it locally, they actually have virtual sessions as well.
Okay.
So they even do things like meditation.
Okay.
And for those that do have the local support, they actually have group meetings where you can do arts and yoga and other things like that. And the nice thing about it is that you're with a circle of people that are going through the same thing, so there's no explanation um, going on. So you don't have to kind of tell somebody what you're going through. And you can talk frankly, but nobody feels sorry for each other.
No.
Everybody's just there just to kind of pick up a few skills of, you know, getting relaxed or calming or exercise or anything along that line. And the one thing we have friends that were diagnosed probably 6 months after me. And the biggest thing I could tell them is just all you need to do is show up because um, the medical component, you can't, being anxious isn't going to help the medical component or, doing, um, uh, getting upset or whatever it is isn't going to help the medical component. You just need to show up, have faith in the process, and kind of go through it.
So let me get this right. You discover you have this rare kind of cancer, and NBC, they tell you they cannot operate on you. So pretty much they told you you can just go home, do those mini treatments, and that's it for you. However, your wife's daughter did not accept. So she started doing her own research, and she found this brilliant surgeon in Toronto that after a lot of tries, I remember talking to Carolyn about that, they actually accepted you. And
No,
they,
actually, once they saw the data, we sent them the information. They said, come out here
oh,
and we'll
right away. Okay.
right away.
Okay. Then I misunderstood. Okay, so they fly you there, you're in there, you get your operation done, and that's the operation that was done on you. What was the success rate for it?
That's what I'm saying. The success rate is, you had a 10% chance of not making it through the operation. It's
10%.
it's one of those things where, it's not that common. It's super rare. They literally move my heart and lung around and they kind of have me cut open from here and then take half of your esophagus out, your breathing tube, and they extracted it and then stretched it up and reattached it and
Wow.
used they used a patch from a cow, a bovine patch to hold things together
Wow.
until it's strong enough. And there was complications along the way from that. And at one point, I think we were back in Emerge 3 times, 4 times within the month for that.
Mhm.
And then they followed up with aggressive radiation for 6 weeks after, just to make sure all the edges and everything was cleaned up.
Okay, so then in 2023, by the end of it, I think you were saying you were cancer free.
By early 24, there was no traces left in this particular area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did the family handle all of this? Like, how did the people around you were acting and reacting to it? Was everybody on board with the mindset, with the positive energy, with the meditation? Tell me more about this aspect.
My family was amazing. They were so supportive. They stepped up out of, they said, do you need this? Do you need this? Or didn't even ask and said, you need this. And it's kind of where pride gets in the way if you're not careful.
Mhm.
Because the last thing I wanted to do, we knew it was going to be expensive to go to Toronto for 4 months, 5 months. And so Carolyn's daughter set up a GoFundMe page. And I was really hesitant about that particular component. And then my sister gave us a huge amount of money for everything. And she said, it's actually a gift to them to accept that. It completely shifted my mindset that, you know, and it's so easy to kind of go, I don't want anybody to know. I don't want any help. I can do this. But at the end of the day, allowing people in is for them as much as it is for you. And it's super important to kind of surround yourself with that love if they're there. And when we were at Wellspring, they had some funny stories because this one woman goes that her friends really wanted to help while she was in treatment. So she said, okay, you can do it. And then she came home and her entire kitchen was reorganized and she couldn't find anything, but she thought she was being helpful and moved everything around so it'd be easier to get to. And she's like, I didn't know where anything was in my own kitchen. So
Some is unneeded.
people help the way that they know, I guess, whether that and sometimes it's tough because sometimes you have to push away some people that believe they're helping, but they're actually kind of bringing you down or doing things like that. There are some people that would say, "Oh, you got this," and it's just like some of those words are meaningless depending on what that person's actions are.
Exactly. How important it is, or how did you protect yourself from like this exact scenario? Like, how did you say no in a way where you don't feel bad about it, but still you're protecting your own sanity, I would say, or your own space?
I think, we had this phrase where cancer is this amazing people filter,
Mm-hmm.
and it will actually help you filter out people from your life that you don't need.
Okay.
And so you don't actually feel bad about like saying, I don't want you around or you're not helping me, so please kind of stay away and or you just kind of cut off communication with them. We had to do that actually with a couple that we thought we were quite close with, and then they hit us with some stuff. I was literally came out of surgery. I think I was 2 days out of surgery, and we got this really awful message, and we were just like, delete, just block them. Didn't need them in our lives.
So it's good to protect yourself and know how to say no in these situations as well. Don, what would you say to a 20 years old that's going through cancer and to a 40 years old that's going through cancer? People that still don't have that strong mindset, or maybe are working on building this strong mindset, but they're still going through cancer and, things are not turning out well for them.
There would be a few things I would say. It's so tough, especially when you're young, and even 40 is young at the end of the day. I think it's important that you kind of focus on yourself
Mhm.
to start with. Don't worry about what other people think or worry about expectations of what you should be doing or what things should be looking like. Uh, and start from there, and then, don't be afraid to ask questions, especially when it comes to your care, because, what they may be offering may not necessarily be the only option out there for you. Um, and then
Stay away from the Facebook groups.
yes, definitely stay away from
Or
Facebook.
or from Dr. Google or ChatGPT. Don't be a doctor.
Yeah. But the funny thing about ChatGPT is my wife would take the test results and put them into chat and say, put this into plain English so that she would understand it. And it was able to kind of take some really technical things and explain kind of what was going on by going through the information. But yeah, there's it's you can reach out, and I think it's important for people to join things like Wellspring, even online, and surround yourself with other people that understand what you're going through, because then um, you feel less like you feel less like everybody doesn't understand what you're going through, and everybody's different. Some people it's much more critical. And there's certain days when you wake up and you're just like, why me, or whatever that situation is. And it's not easy. And it's having a counselor, if you can afford it, or get one assigned to you through the care system, is another kind of a great level of support. We realized that after the fact, we were home for almost a year when all of a sudden both Carolyn and myself crashed. Literally, all of a sudden we couldn't cope because, all the trauma of all that stuff from the year before kind of came in and snuck in on us. And all of a sudden we were very sensitized to any stimulus that came in. And it was very, very hard, let's just say. And I think it's we find it interesting because we're surrounded by other people. I think I mentioned that we have other friends that are kind of going through it. And the choices that you make are really important. So this one person, they still smoke and drink, and that's their choice. But I don't know whether or not that's giving your body all the help that it needs along the way. So, we have always kind of eaten organic where possible, and we um, obviously we use alkaline water and things like that to give your body that better chance to get through things. We still like get out for air and exercise and those things. You want to give your body the best possible chance
I
to
love
go through. Yeah.
I love what you said. Don, I remember Carolyn said that you guys didn't only have one miracle, but you guys had two.
Yeah.
And I still don't know the story behind this. So I didn't ask her because I wanted to ask you on this podcast. So would you mind sharing with us?
So this particular cancer is a little bit unusual in that it doesn't spread like the roots of a tree, the way that a lot of cancers do, where it kind of catches everything along the way. This is more like it uses, like they say, it's like jumping on an airplane, so it actually jumps locations.
Hmm.
So we go back for follow-ups every 6 months, and or 3 months and then 6 months. And then on the one last November, they found uh, metastasis in my liver.
Hmm.
And um, they did ultrasound. They weren't sure what it was. Then they actually referred us back to Kelowna and um, did a biopsy, and it ended up being the same cancer, only it had spread to my liver. Strangely enough, almost the same story. We went through all the testing, got hooked up. The tumor board, the local one, and the provincial board said it's inoperable. We'll give you two different types of radiation to treat it, and kind of this is the path forward. I had been looping my Toronto care team in during this entire um, phase, and my surgeon, who happens to be chief of surgery in Toronto, said, I'd like my liver surgeon to look at this. And he said, we can operate if you're willing to come out. So April 1st, Carolyn hated the fact it was on April 1st.
Because
Um, and they operated on April 1st. The idea was that they were going to go in and it's called a wedge resection where they would take a little piece out and pull them. There was four of them, and it ended up being one was more problematic than they ended up taking a third of my liver. They weren't initially approved for that, but they thought it was the best path based on where its location was.
okay.
So they took a third of my liver out, and um, I had a bit of a rough recovery from that in Toronto. And then, so we ended up kind of being able to get out here and with lots of kind of rest and my yeah, all the edges ended up being clean. They got all the spots out of my liver. There's four of them. Um, my liver's grown back. My blood numbers are all back to normal.
Nice. That's awesome.
And it is August.
You look good.
Yeah,
How
for
do you feel?
yeah, I'm solid, right? And it's and say, we again give your body the best possible chance. So you eat good. I've been doing green smoothies with
Mm.
lots of kale and spinach and things like that. And
Do
I'm
you fast?
I don't.
Oh,
Carolyn does.
okay. So you never fasted through this journey? No.
No,
Okay.
no,
But you still eat healthy, you still work out, you still go for your walks anytime you can.
you bet.
How did you cope with it on the second round?
Second one is mentally tougher.
Mm.
It's kind of one of those, oh, this again. So you're always of the, what's the next follow-up gonna be look like, or what's the next scan gonna look like? So it hangs a little heavier every time you have to um, go through it. And uh, I'm actually part of a group that it's worldwide of a group of people that all had the cancer in their throat, in their thoracic area, because this particular cancer normally forms in your head and your neck. So it being in your neck alone is rare. Um, so the group is it's quite interesting because they are all sharing their care stories and it seems like a lot of them never had it removed. They just actually had um, it kind of was called debulking. So they used either radiation or they used other means to kind of shrink it down a little bit. But I think, you know, that surgical route that we got offered twice, I think is such a blessing.
I love how you put every challenge that other people see it as a challenge as a blessing for you. Like whatever you're getting, you're seeing it as an opportunity for you to live longer, to be on this planet for a longer time. Um, Before we end, tell us your situation right now. Where are you at right now?
So we are, as I say, the operation was in April, so we're just getting to that phase of just trying to get back to our regular lives after you've kind of had major surgery or any of the women out there that have had C-sections, it takes a while for that abdominal incision
To
to
heal.
heal and nobody tells you about how it heals,
Yeah.
right? Or what that feels like. And so gone through that, have an amazing counselor
Mm.
that we got. So she's been really great and really kind of saying, yeah, it's okay not to feel normal because, or the same as it was before, because you're not the same as you were before.
Yeah.
So we've gone through that. My next follow-up is in September. We fly out to Toronto. I want to mention that there's an amazing charity called Hope Air in Canada.
Mhm.
that if you can't afford to, they will fly you from where you are to your care,
Okay.
and they will cover you for the airfare there and back for not only you, but also a companion so that you're not traveling alone. And they're even covering some of our accommodations. So
Nice.
it's a pretty amazing group. They actually have fundraisers all the way across the country. They have one in Edmonton coming up. They have one in Calgary, um, and they have one in Kelowna, Vancouver. But an amazing organization. The need for them seems to keep going up and up as our healthcare systems don't seem to be getting better locally. So
That's
yeah.
good. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. Uh, so in a nutshell, if I do a quick recap, you're saying it's a combination of everything. It's not only the surgery or the treatment that you go through. It's the mindset, it's your mental health, it's eating healthy, being surrounded by people that will lift you up, and most importantly, believe that you are cured and do the affirmations on a daily basis. Some people would laugh at this, especially if they are in a dark mindset and, in a place where they don't see hope. What would you advise them if they're listening to this podcast?
Reach out, talk to people that are going through it. Because they will kind of hopefully they will understand, especially somebody that's gone through it will understand and and just listen, they'll listen to you. So you can share kind of how you're feeling, kind of what your fears are, what's kind of going on, and maybe listen to their story and then um, kind of go from there because that will lift you. There's nothing worse than feeling alone or that there's nothing there for you. And there's there's probably more miracles out there than people ever hear about. Because if you're out there looking for darkness, you will find darkness, right? But if you're out there looking for those miracles, you'll find them, they'll find you. And I think that's, my biggest advice for anybody that might be struggling for this at the moment.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be on here today. I hope this podcast helps someone out there that's feeling lonely, that's struggling. There's a lot of tips that were shared in here. Uh, if you're going through anything, you don't have to do it alone. Find the right help. Reach out to people that have been going through the same thing. And don't forget that you're not alone in this. And miracles do happen, not only on Christmas, but all year long. Thank you so much, Dawn, for being here today. Is there a final message you'd like to share?
No, I think we've touched on most of it. And as I say, I think it's amazing people like yourself that really kind of lift us up and kind of show up out of nowhere. And when you're open to it, that's when they kind of come. So be open.
Thank you. That's amazing advice. Be open and you don't have to do it alone. I love it when you said that. Thank you so much, Dawn. And I hope this podcast helped you. If you have anyone that's struggling through this, share the link with them. Maybe this podcast will shift their mindset and will allow them to take the path of healing instead of feeling that they're alone. Thank you, guys. We'll see you on another podcast.
Bye.